And welcome everyone to the regular trustee meeting. It's Monday, February 27th. It is 5 o'clock p.m. And if everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an agenda. Are there any changes or corrections? Thank you. Take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Trustee Crutch?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
I move to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $348,718.67 for the 2/22/23 payroll.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Crutch?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the payment listing report in the amount of $734,494.23 for warrants through February 23rd, 2023 as presented.
Second.
Trustee Crutch?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes. We have minutes for the regular trustee meeting on February 13th. Are there any changes or corrections?
I had none.
No.
Motion.
I move to adopt the minutes for the February 13th, 2023 regular trustee meeting as presented.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Crutch?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes. All right. Any citizens that are desiring to speak, you have 3 minutes to tell us anything you'd like to let us know. Anybody? Thank you. All right. Moving on, old business. There is none. New business. There is none. I'll turn it over to Mr. Zahariev.
Thank you, Board. Next item on your agenda, since we've gone to the new monthly format, all the monthly reports will be in the first meeting of the month. So strictly the second meeting of the month will be all agenda items. So our first item today is under the Public Service Department, under page 22 of your packet. And our first is a purchase request to rebuild an engine, not a fire engine, the engine that goes in the fire engine for engine 62. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Schroeder.
Good evening, Board. I have 2 items for you. First one being the motor replacement for engine 62. This engine has been out of service for 35 days as of now. It has a lot of blow-by going by in the motor, which has created some other issues along with the exhaust. And it's gotten so severe that we can't run it now. So the options here are to replace the motor completely, or there's a possibility we could rebuild it, but we won't know that until we can get into it and take a look at it. So I have before you the purchase request to Cummins for a not to exceed amount of $55,000. It's above the quoted price, but as you go through these processes, you can run into some other items that this would cover that hopefully. So if you have any questions for me.
And that includes, is there any labor component to it, or is that strictly?
This is all of that. This is
everything.
This is everything.
So you're taking it to them. They are. You're delivering it to them. How are you getting it to them?
It'll probably have to get towed to them. It'll get towed down to them, and then they'll replace the motor. Then they'll get rid of all the old parts.
Does this include the towing cost or not?
No, I don't have the towing cost involved in that. Again, and I'm not 100% certain it's going to get towed. It's my gut that it's going to get towed down to them.
I didn't know if they would come and pull the engine, take it to them, and then bring it back. Obviously, that's a lot more.
Yeah, that would be, and we wouldn't have, we couldn't, even in our facility down at the shop, we wouldn't have that capacity to do that.
And where will they be taking it?
It'll be going to Cummins Incorporated, which I think is down
In Indiana?
Yeah. So it's a sole source. It's the only, Cummins is the one who made the motor. So we're sending it back to them to make sure we get it done right.
Will they keep communicating with you if they can't rebuild it? And then
Yes,
they're not gonna
yes.
just start rebuilding and then say, oh, it's gonna cost you $50,000 to rebuild when we could have bought a new one.
Right. No, as they start to get into it, they're going to know, and we've already had both quotes either way. So they know as they get into it, if it's just gonna be, we're gonna have to replace it, we're just gonna go that route. But again, it's just a matter of starting to we have to take it apart anyway to get it out. So as they start to go through it, they're gonna know if we need to just move to the remote replacement. And the sooner we can get this done, it gets Nathan a little bit happier because he gets one of his frontline engines back and we can put the reserve back that we want to continue to use, keep as a reserve.
And how old is this engine?
This engine is,
This was in the second batch, so 2014.
yeah.
Not that old, but hours.
Yeah, but I mean, with the idle hours, I mean, it's
Right.
more of the idle load, when it sits on scene and idles, when it's pumping, it's not always necessarily the drive to and from, it's just the wear and tear of sitting idling, pumping on fire, stuff like that.
If there are no other questions, there's a sample motion on page 22.
I make a motion to approve purchase request 23 PSD 0070 to Cummins Inc. for a motor replacement in the amount of not to exceed $55,000 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second, with discussion, so towing that thing to Columbus, Indiana could be several $1,000s.
Yeah,
So I don't know if you have to, by dollar amount, you wouldn't necessarily have to come back to the board, but if you could just keep us aware of that.
we'll do.
All right, thank you.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
trustee Brett,
Yes.
trustee Dean.
Yes.
Thank you, board. Next item is the fire alarm system for Station 63, and Mr. Schroeder has the information. We did receive all the bids.
Our favorite firehouse, Station 63, we continue to see it this year. So this was a budgeted item to replace the fire alarm system, which is about 24 years old. It's obsolete. It's not operating correctly. We've made repairs to it. It's a proprietary system, which actually cost us more money to make repairs to it. As you recall, we put out the RFP earlier in February. We got all those back. I included all those prices in there. Upon discussion between public service, fire prevention, and fire admin, we did have some questions that we got back from a couple. And then upon that evaluation, it was recommended that we choose Saturn Electric. They met all the requirements of the RFP. And they were the only ones that met all the requirements.
That was my first question.
So, yeah, as we went through the evaluation process, they were the only ones that came back that met all the criteria in the RFP. So this will get that system switched out, and take away a lot of headaches for those folks that are in that station, because it's constantly going into trouble, and so it's really not beneficial at this point, and it's a safety factor as far as if they're not in the firehouse, we don't have a good way of monitoring if something does go wrong. And then again, if they're in the firehouse, it's still not a reliable system.
Is this, then it is not a proprietary system?
Right, we are not putting in a proprietary system back in. We're going with an addressable type system, so it opens up a lot more possibilities for people to work on it. We're not tied to one person. And that was on the recommendation of the Fire Prevention Bureau.
I'll make a well, I lost it. Hang on here.
Page 31.
Yeah, it just flipped on me. I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 23-PSD-0073 to Saturn Electric for Station 63 fire alarm replacement in the amount of $29,250 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Brett,
Yes.
trustee Wallace,
Yes.
trustee Dean.
Yes.
Thank you, board. The next item, I'm proud to announce, I'll turn it over to Mr. Parks, but on Friday, our 3 cruisers delivered. When we went from not knowing if we were going to get cruisers this year to getting 3 delivered this week. So what we're asking for tonight is to go ahead and purchase all the equipment that is needed for the 2 cruisers, and then for the 3rd cruiser, which would be in addition to our fleet, for our K9 unit, and I did pass out some photos of our K9 that was just picked out today. And we're waiting on the schools to get back with the cartoons, little color drawings and circling a name of the dog, so they'll be coming hopefully this week. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Parks.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
I would like to thank Sergeant Kessel. This kind of, when OSP cut the time down on the class, him and I have both been busy trying to put this all together. But the one thing we need this evening is the purchase request for KE Rose to do the installs. Of course, one being brand new, there's some auxiliary stuff that Mr. Zaharieff can do at his level for about another, total about another 11,000 on top of that. So you're looking at about 36, almost 37,000 for the new vehicle. And then with the two old ones, we're swapping over whatever we can to the new ones. And we kept in the back of our minds that it needed some upgrades to it, to make the three alike, similar as far as layout, lighting, and the back configuration. So those have been added into the price. But the K9 unit alone, just for KE Rose, was just under $26,000. And the two other transfers with some additional equipment was $17,662. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
On the K9 unit, was there any grant funding or anything that was available for that?
That's all being paid by the opioid
Through the
fund
opioid.
one, yeah.
Okay.
So later on, we'll be approving the permanent appropriations budget, but right now it'll be coming out of the police fund. And then by the end of the year, we'll transfer the money from the opioid fund back into the police fund.
Okay.
For here, there are some things that will later on be coming out of the opioid one fund. And then I did submit all the paperwork for the additional that Mrs. Frick brought up at the last meeting, and we passed the resolution. So we should get a disbursement amount for the additional funds that will also go in there. So we will be taking some of the personnel costs, all the K9 overtime related to that, any extra patrols related out of that fund, and that could be not just the K9 unit, that could be additional staff in the substation that will be doing extra patrols along the US 35 corridor or anywhere we're seeing activity in the community. And so we'll take those funds over the next several years out of there directly, as opposed to paying out of the police fund and then reimbursing the police fund.
Yeah, we are tracking all the expenses for dog-related stuff. I mean, we're down to dog food and uniforms for
Deputy
the
Kraft.
deputy and all that. So hopefully there'll be enough in that account to pay it all back. But the initial upfront cost, probably doubtful, not at least this year.
Yeah, there's the state auditor put out an auditor bulletin stating that you could upfront the money out of the police fund or any law-related fund statewide, but in our case, the police fund, and then we can reimburse the expenses. So if we don't have enough money this year, the police fund can upfront the money, if you will, and then next year when we get our next disbursement from the state, we then can reimburse, and then once that fund continues, plus the additional funds, which we don't know yet what we're going to get.
And that can roll from year to year. It's not treated as the grant we had before where we did not close it out.
That's correct. We can let that fund continue for the next 18 years. We do have to spend it. We're going to be audited, obviously, but we do have to spend it on something related in drug. In our case, we have decided to do drug interdiction. All the agencies will be working together once there's a few dogs in training right now throughout the county. So once everybody's done with training, we're going to try to make sure that we have a lot of coordination amongst all the K9 units within the county and make sure that we at least have 1 or 2 K9 units on duty throughout the county. So if our dog is off or our deputy is off with the dog, we can use Beavercreek's dogs and vice versa, or the sheriff, the other districts in the county. Same thing with City of Fairborn. So They will be all going to training together, which is a good thing. So they'll all get to know each other.
Cross train.
Yeah.
We had, at one point, we had a local business owner that was willing to donate or fund. And so did we at least gracefully decline because of this program?
Yeah. So that there were some personnel changes, and that kind of changed in regards to what they were willing to do.
Sure.
So
Okay.
the biggest thing was the vehicle. But now that we have the opioid fund, we're able to, and we're going to lease the vehicles and trade in just like the three that just came in. But we are trading in one of the lease vehicles that ends this year in the lease fleet management program.
Okay.
If there's no other questions, there's a motion on page 90.
I move to approve purchase request VIP requisition number 23 PSD 0072 to K.E. Rose for equipment and installation for 3 new sheriff vehicles and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second, do we need to apply a dollar amount to this though? 74, 346, 86.
It
Is
should
that-
be 61,500 just to K.E. Rose.
Okay.
And the rest of the stuff, like I said, is under 10,
Okay.
like a radio,
So for this motion, it's 61, not to exceed
not to
61,500.
exceed
Okay.
$61,500.
I'll amend the motion to state to not to exceed $61,500.
Second,
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Price.
yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 92 of your packet is a purchase request for our priority dispatching software. I'll turn it over to the fire chief.
Good evening, Board. Good to see you again.
Good seeing you.
So tonight we have a request to renew our service agreement for Priority Dispatch. This is our software package that's used at the dispatch center on behalf of the fire department. So the cost is actually paid for, encumbered and paid for by us, but it's actually run on the police department system at the city. The price tag is large. It is a 5-year agreement that we're signing, so we gave you the full total for the 5 years. And then inside the packet, we do have it broken down on a year-by-year basis. This includes not only the software licensing, but the support and maintenance, training and recertification of personnel to use the software, and our call review process, which is a part of our quality improvement process that we use. So all told, it is an extremely important product for us. It allows us to tailor our responses to the needs of the caller. So when somebody calls 911, this is the software that helps the dispatcher drill down to determine how serious and what type of an incident it is, and then dispatch the appropriate resources for that incident. It works in conjunction with our CAD system. The difference being the CAD system pulls that information from EMD to determine the severity of the call and the type of call, and then it combines it with the location of the call to determine which specific units are necessary. So the the EMD may say it needs a medic and an engine. The CAD system will determine which medic and which engine to send as appropriate. So they do work together. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
This software is just for fire. Is that correct?
It's for fire and EMS. So the fire department,
EMS.
yes, but it does both the emergency medical side and the fire suppression side.
So we can't get any kind of monies from the city of Beavercreek for this?
No. Now, they do have a law enforcement component that they've evaluated in the past, but if they were to use that, they would probably fund it themselves and then use it themselves.
Just checking.
Yes. I like the way you think.
I'm into shared services.
Absolutely.
And sharing money is a whole nother process.
Chief, on 1.8.3, the recurring costs, they don't add up to the 175,583.
If it's high, it's probably because, as noted in the narrative, 1 year, we're consolidating 2 agreements, and the first year, this year, 23, is only part of the total cost. We are still obligated for the, I believe it's the call review process which is a separate cost for 23. So
Because the purchase rec is for 175,583, and the total of the 5 years adds up to 202,103. So I just want to make sure we approve enough.
yeah, I believe it's that difference from the,
It's right here, 1.5.
okay. And I just can't remember which part is left
26,520.
out.
It's the first part of fiscal year 2023, it's the remainder of the existing agreement.
And that's the 26,520.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
sorry, without my glasses, I can't read far over
So
here.
that,
I'm
the
a mess.
26,520 is already encumbered.
Yes,
The 26,520 is already encumbered, just encumbering 175,583 additional.
correct.
For a total of 202,103.
Yes, so
Whatever
this
that
year
is.
it's covered by 2 different encumbrances, and then the remaining 4 years it'll be covered by the single encumbrance.
I did quick math.
I appreciate you checking.
You're welcome.
Yes, I would hate
I
to
can't
get to
help
the end and be
myself.
26 short.
I don't want you coming back. I mean, not like,
I don't want to be back either. At least for that.
for this matter.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. There's plenty of other things. Okay.
Is there one type of it might not be, but it sounds like it works in conjunction with other softwares to get the right call, the right equipment, and the right information to people. Is there something that's just one that you're not paying for multiple service agreements with that does it all?
I don't believe so. I believe EMD is truly a single source, as in to my knowledge, there are no other vendors that even offer a competing product. In CAD, there are multiple competitors, but CAD is also the county-wide system
Yeah.
that's an agreement between all of the public safety agencies in Greene County for that software. So we're fortunate that the two pieces do talk to each other. But we don't have an option that we could pursue that would provide the whole thing under one software vendor. And I don't believe there is one to be found anyway. We haven't looked because obviously the CAD piece, we couldn't choose on our own regardless.
Yeah, the difficult part is it relates to a lot of what the local protocols are, especially when it comes to EMS. And how the Fire Chiefs Association, they decide to respond to certain things as a county, as opposed to, just laying a blanket software over the top. It's essentially an add-on to the software. This also determines our ER and non-ER responses. It's dramatically over the years reduced the lights and siren calls, which is a big liability for the township. It's also reduced our engine responses as well. And this is where we constantly evaluate this. I know staff's looking at potentially even imposing some other where we're going to reduce some of the current, when the new engines get in, some of the responses to like maybe our nursing homes and things like that. So there is a QA/QI process part of this as well that the dispatch center goes through to review these calls. So if it's a certain type of calls, they get reviewed and see how the dispatch center can improve making those response calls for the fire department.
Does this software interface with the software we purchased that shaved like 10 seconds off of a call? Or is that now
Tech-
obsolete?
So that's the mock alert, the voice, text to voice. That works with CAD and this works with CAD. So CAD is the common factor between the two. But it doesn't work directly with the Pro QA.
So that software is still relevant though? That we
Oh,
purchased?
absolutely, yes, and still
That was
providing a good
hefty
service.
price.
Yes.
Still remember that.
There are
price.
just
Yeah.
so many different ones. You'd think that somebody would come and make,
There is a market for it if
Yes.
somebody were to step up. The difficulty is if you consider the liability, because the initial investment to make sure that you have a system that is meeting all the national EMS protocols, and then in this case they do both fire and law enforcement in addition to EMS. Any sort of deviation from national protocol will be a huge liability. So there'd be a significant startup cost. Now, if somebody figured it out and was able to do it, then yeah, it'd be nice to have competing companies that would force each other to improve and innovate. We just don't have it.
And I'm just to add on, Ms. Wallace, everybody in the county is now using the text dispatch. So they were able to add on to our system.
Did we get reimbursed for some of that?
We've been reimbursed for all the pieces that we could be, yes.
Yes.
They were paying for, a couple agencies were paying to use it early on. And now they have all essentially reimbursed the portions that we can be, and now they are sharing the cost of the ongoing support. So it's no longer our burden alone.
Good. Thank you. I have no other questions.
There's a motion on page 93.
I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 23-fire-0102 to Priority Dispatch for emergency dispatching, licensing, training, and call review in the amount of $175,583, and to authorize the Township Administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Crutz?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Sorry for the deposition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board. That's all I have.
All right. Legal advisor?
Nothing today.
Thank you. And Mr. Rushing?
Thank you, Board. Starting on page 94 is our annual resolution to adopt our permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2023. The totals include all of the transfers, advances, and other adjustments that the board acted upon last meeting, and they total $38,804,274.67. I do also like to mention this resolution is in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code in terms of legal level control, as well as in compliance with our annual certificate of resources as given to us by the Greene County Budget Commission. We are about a month ahead of schedule, as this is due to the Greene County Budget Commission by April 1st of each year. Be happy to answer any questions. There is a resolution on page 94.
I commend you for doing this getting this done so early. Thanks. I'm sure they're going to be happy.
It would have been the last agenda, but there were so many resolutions, it kind of got missed, so I'll take the heat on that one. So it would have been done last meeting.
We still appreciate Mr.
Yeah,
Ryan.
yeah.
Still, it's a lot.
Yeah, it was early, we
Forget
liked it, so.
You get passed just by title only on page 94.
Any other questions?
I had one.
Make a motion for resolution number 202-30227-FIN-A, authorizing permanent appropriations for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Crutz?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item for your consideration is a motion to adopt an extended IPA, Independent Public Accountant Agreement, with our current firm, which is BHM, to do our statutory annual financial audits with the Ohio Auditor of State. For those of you who may not be aware, the Ohio Auditor of State is allowed to send out the annual statutory audit to independent public accounting firms, as the Auditor of State only has so many staff accountants to do the annual financial audits of the township. This agreement would extend the financial audit through fiscal year 2024, as 2022 has excess of $750,000 of federal expenditures. We are subject to a single audit. So fiscal year 2022 will be audited as a single fiscal year, undergoing the Federal Single Audit Act and the requirements thereof. So that does increase the amount of appropriations needed for this encumbrance to authorize that individual audit. And then 2025 will be the biannual audit for fiscal years 23 and fiscal year 24, and we'll get back on the annual every other year for the preceding 2 years of financial audit. I do believe this would be more than likely the last audit with BHM. The township has been with BHM for several audits now, and we have been in great partnership with their team, as well as working with the finance department staff. And I believe the board is comfortable with their services and has been very pleased with the level of detail and reports they've been given. With that is a sample of the 15 plus points of light, as well as a sample motion on page 108 to accept this contract as well as authorize the purchase requisition.
Mr. Rushing, is this would be the fourth audit they've done for us? Third or fourth?
That's
It's-
correct. We had an audit, well, we had an audit starting through 2016, so this will be through 8 audits.
Okay.
8 fiscal
8 years, 4, yeah, okay. 4 audits, correct. Because the dollar amount seemed significantly higher than what we've paid in the past, especially based on the fact their familiarity with it. But the state actually picks them. They bid to the state selects them and assigns them to us. We don't pick them arbitrarily, correct?
We do not pick them
Okay.
arbitrarily. This is an extension of their previous contract. Once this extension, the Auditor of State's Office is permissible to extend one time through the same IPA firm. They have elected to do so. Once BHM is done with this contract, they will go out and do a full RFP process to narrow down a listing of potentially 3 IPA firms, or the Auditor of State's Office could choose to audit the township with staff, state auditors through the Auditor of State's Office.
Sure.
When it does get narrowed down to an IPA RFP, the township does have some input, but does not have the final authority to select that individual IPA firm.
Do we have any hanging or leftover management notes or recommendations from the last audit that we need to address in this, or be specific to identify a time period for when they occurred?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
All the comments that were addressed in the first fiscal year that was audited was a lot of times due to the timing of the previous fiscal officer, myself, as well as introducing new accounting software and the delay in getting that up and running. But the last fiscal year that was audited, which is 2021, had 0 comments in that audit, and we fully expect that in 2022. As you mentioned, the cost is greater, but that's due to it being a federal single audit, so there's a higher level of standard that the auditors have to take in consideration when they audit that single fiscal year.
And then the SAFER grant timing, is there an overlap where that'll affect or impact this audit, or was that consumed 100% in the last audit?
We completed with the SAFER grant, but the previous year, 2022, will have some impact from the federal single audit, but nothing moving forward unless we would entertain a new SAFER grant.
Okay. Okay.
There's a sample motion on page 108. If there's no other questions.
I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 23-FIN-0031 to BHM CPA Group, Inc. for agreement for audit services 2022 to 2024 in the amount of $18,000, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Kretz,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Thank you, board. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you. All right, meetings. Miami Valley Regional Planning.
Meeting will be Thursday.
Thank you. TAC.
Just a little bit of extra money, I believe, for our grant for the paving here on Orchard and Yellow Brick. And it's not a great deal, but a little bit extra allowance.
Thank you. Regional Planning.
The full commission meets tomorrow evening. There's nothing for Beavercreek Township on the agenda. There's 2 solar issues or matters on the agenda, one for Silver Creek, one for Bath Township. And then Village of Jamestown has a resolution or text amendment that they're trying to push through, but nothing that directly impacts us.
Thank you. Health Department, next meeting is Thursday, the 2nd of March. We'll have something for next meeting. School Superintendent.
Thank you, Board. I had to cancel my meeting with the city manager last week. I attended the mandatory bid on-site visit for the stormwater project on Factory, but I did meet with the superintendent. Kind of some things for the community. There will be a levy on the ballot for the schools, which will just affect new construction in the Beavercreek School District community, the taxing district. It will not be new taxes for current residents. There's also the schools will be starting a strategic planning process. There'll be a kickoff meeting shortly with the school board, and then additional public input. And the last thing is they are, since COVID, there was a lot of meetings that were put on hold, and some obviously projects, not only for the schools, but for the township and other municipalities. They will be talking about the facilities master plan again and getting that committee back together to start looking at the future. Obviously, a lot of things have changed, and some things have changed because of COVID and some of the programs they have implemented since then. So they're going to relook at the master facility plan. So you'll see a lot of things in social media when these public meetings are that people can provide some input to. I know I served on the committee. We were having them in the schools, and there was over 100 of people there talking about the facility. So they'll be starting that back up. And no meeting for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or the Greene County Wastewater Committee.
Thank you. Township Association.
We'll have a meeting in 2 weeks. I'll know more about it. The invitations haven't gone out yet.
They'll probably go out this week. We'll finalize a speaker, and it will be held at the Stonehill Village Community Center.
Okay. And investment oversight.
I had nothing other than the normal, just recommendations which Mr. Rushing's already following, but where we stand, Mr. Rushing, when was Huntington here last as far as a quarterly presentation? Was that December or was that January? I'm trying to remember.
We could probably do for a meeting.
Sometime in March.
We didn't really, and I'll take blame for it, we didn't really, I didn't schedule a quarterly touch point, but I can do that. Definitely reach out to Mr. Sumner at Huntington.
If we can,
get something on the books.
yeah, maybe do that when we have a full board back, because I know we've got some folks have some travel plans coming up, so.
It's good timing for it, so.
Okay. Yeah, especially based on where rates are at, and then just really get a flavor for what he thinks the interest rate cadence will be for the rest of the year, and where we stand as far as a balance of 1 to 5 year, as far as the weighted average and laddering of the portfolio will be helpful to see, or at least illustrate.
Will do.
That's all I had.
Thank you. All right, we have executive session. I'll take a motion.
I move to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code Section 121-22G1 to consider the employment of a public employee, and under Ohio Revised Code Section 121-22G4, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz,
Yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Mr. Hayes.
Thank you. We'll return to our regular trustee meeting. It is 7:23 p.m.
Make a motion to adjourn,
No motion come out executive.
or motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
Trustee Kretz,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz,
Yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.